Hey everyone. So, as a mindset coach, I love when I find people who have used their mindset to completely change their life. And Chris DT Gordon, I use DT because that is the best way to find him on all of his socials. He has done exactly that. So, Chris is a teacher with a twist. His story has a little bit extra. I can't wait for you to hear it. I hope you enjoyed the interview. Please like and subscribe and ask any questions that you want. I always love answering questions. All right. Have an amazing day and may it be beautiful. Hey, teachers and parents. So, this interview is for you. If you are interested in understanding more about how gratitude works, one of my favorite topics, if you have been thinking about maybe writing a book or becoming a speaker, and if you've been thinking about possibly becoming an online teacher if you're teaching in brick and mortar at the moment. So, in this episode, we are talking to Chris D.T. Gordon, who is a teacher, author, and motivational speaker who created the TAG program, which helps people to understand the power of having the attitude of gratitude. Chris, thank you so much for being on the show today. How's it going?
Marissa, first of all, thank you so much for having me on. I've been looking forward to this conversation for a while. And I do want to apologize. I'm not sure if most of your guests dress up for their conversations with you. I'm purposely dressed comfy because I just finished a really long run this morning and I've been working at recovery. So I'm just exuding relaxation recovery right now with this big old sweatshirt and my sweatpants, which you can't see, but trust me, they're there. And
I
so
love
I am
it.
doing excellently well. Thank you very much.
Good. What was your run all about? What are you training for?
Well, I have a marathon that I'm running on May 4th. And so some of your ears, those in listen to podcasts, your ears might have perked up when I said that date. Yes, that is Star Wars Day. So I do have to wear a Star Wars shirt when I run this marathon. But I am aiming for my main goal is under 3 hours. My my goal I'm carrying over from a previous marathon is to
Yeah.
qualify for the Boston Marathon. And
Okay.
I had actually run a time that was good enough for Boston last year, but they had to add an additional bubble onto the qualifying times because so many people had qualified, and that bumped me out. So the
Um,
day I found that out, I just logged on to a nearby marathon's website, got registered, and I started my training. And so this morning I ran 20 miles at a comfortable pace. I had a good friend join me for 4 of those miles before he had to go off and start his day. And so I'm really happy with my effort. I'm also really happy being comfy right now.
yeah, good. I agree. I'm with you. And just before we start, I'm curious. So when you found out that you weren't going to be accepted in the Boston Marathon, just in terms of a mindset perspective, um, was there anything specific that you said to yourself to kind of get over that hurdle, or how were you able to sort of move past it without just kind of like throwing your hands up and being like, oh my gosh, well, it's done.
That's a great question because I could have become very distraught and disenchanted with running the marathon, with
Yeah.
that goal. But early on, after I had run the race, I looked at the time and I put in my head, well, this might not hold up. In the past, they've had those additional bubbles that they've put on because of the fact that the race directors want to limit the field.
Okay.
So I had in my head it may not hold, and so I started setting contingency plans. One
Nice.
of those contingency plans was, well, there's another race that I've always wanted to run that is around the same time the following year that I'll sign up for. And as it turned out, I didn't make it, but that race was open. And so I signed up for that race that I really wanted to do because it's much flatter. I've had a good friend run it, and he ran his second fastest marathon time there.
Wow.
And also additional icing on this cake is that if I were to try to find a way to run Boston this coming April, I wouldn't be able to go on a spring break trip with my family because our funds would have been depleted. And so I get to go to spring break with my family, and I get to train for the marathon. And unless something bad happens, knock on wood,
Yeah.
I will run Boston the following year in 2025.
That's it. When it's meant to happen, right? You'll run it absolutely when it's meant to happen. And I love that whole, looking for the positive moments in the situation as it is, right? Because there's always something to find. It's like the silver lining in the cloud, right? There's always something to find that's like, oh, well, now I can do this. That's fantastic. I love that. So yeah,
Yes.
great.
Every no leads to a yes.
Yes, there. Yeah, love that. Yeah, we should put it on a T-shirt or something. So Chris, I want to jump in because your story is absolutely fascinating. It's one of the craziest I've heard in a while. It was like, so I really just want you to tell us, where did the journey begin?
Certainly. So the event you're referencing, Marissa, started in March of 2015. And at that time, my wife and I and our three kids had a pretty solid life. My wife is a teacher at the public school here in southern Minnesota. I, as you said earlier, am an online teacher. Yes, there was online teaching before the pandemic.
So I don't think a
And
lot of
so
people
I
knew.
taught, what's that?
I don't think a lot of people actually realized how much online teaching there was before the pandemic.
Yes. In fact, my school, which is called Minnesota Virtual Academy, has been in operation for 20 years.
Wow.
Now, the technology is vastly better than it was back then, but there was still that option. So I was teaching there as a middle school special education teacher, and our three kids were really active 6-year-old and 2-year-old twins. We all had our different interests. We all loved spending time together. So it was a picturesque life for more or less. I mean, we had our issues, but we worked through them and we went on our way.
Yeah.
So one day, as Becky was getting ready to take the kids to daycare and school, respectively, before going to her teaching position, I helped her out by loading the kids into the van. Well, one of our twins was toddling about, which is average for a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
So I picked him up and I started flying him back and forth to our detached garage. I unfortunately went too far to the right and I scraped the back of my right hand on our exterior garage wall. I looked at it and I quoted one of my favorite movies of all time, "'Tis but a scratch." It wasn't bleeding. I could take care of it afterwards. So I put him into the car seat. I kissed them all goodbye. And as they went on their way, I went on my way back into the house to wash off my hand, put a Band-Aid on it, all the stuff I usually do for cuts and scrapes, and start my day of online teaching. Well, 3 days later, I wake up to a bump about the size of a lacrosse ball on my right elbow.
Gosh.
I go to the urgent care clinic. They say it might be bursitis, but keep an eye on it just in case. So I do. I kept an eye on that bump as the bump grew and grew and grew.
Oh my gosh.
Until my right arm was 3 times the size of my left. I like to say I was the Incredible Hulk in mid-transformation. Because the one side was ginormous, the other side was puny human.
How did you feel when you saw the bump first?
Well, when I saw the bump, I thought it was from an incident the night before when I had gone bowling.
Okay.
Because Becky's school had a wellness event where they went bowling and hung out. And so I try to get a 7-10 split, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure if I may have burst the bursa sac in my elbow there.
Got
So
it.
I thought maybe that was it.
Okay.
I didn't tie it into the fact that it was from the scratch.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
didn't come into play. I didn't pop into my head.
Yeah.
So once we procured a babysitter for the kids, Becky took me to the emergency room. They admitted me, and while they're running their diagnostics, taking my vitals, they found that I had also gone septic.
Oh my
And for those who don't
gosh.
know, sepsis is a reaction that the body has to a foreign agent. Many people go through sepsis shock or
Hmm.
septic shock. And one of the results of sepsis is there could be a chemical running through your bloodstream to fight off that foreign agent. However, that alone can kill you.
Right. Oh my gosh.
So I had poison coursing through my veins in a ginormous right arm.
Oh my
Admittedly,
goodness.
admittedly though, Marissa, not the craziest Saturday night I ever experienced.
Okay. Wow.
But
That's
easy
gonna have
talk
to be in
about.
another podcast. We'll have to talk about that
Yes. Yeah,
one.
I'll give those other stories at another time. So they obviously keep me overnight for observation. In the morning, that attending doctor walks up to my hospital bed and says something I will never forget. She said, "Mr. Gordon, this is beyond us. We can do nothing more for you here. Where do you want to go?"
Oh,
Now, I live in Minnesota, and some people may know that also in Minnesota is the Mayo Clinic in
okay.
Rochester, Minnesota. It's a world-renowned facility, and to so much so that there are certain countries that send their royalty to Mayo for their health needs.
Wow.
So, and not only is Rochester, Minnesota, home to the one of the greatest hospitals in the world, it's also home to my parents. Technically, Becky's parents, but we're very close.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I knew that they would be able to take Becky, the kids, and Max, the
Right.
dog, I was sure 2 or 3 days this would take to resolve itself. Me
Yeah.
being a special education teacher, my vast medical knowledge. So I call Becky, I tell her the situation. Then the hospital staff loads me up into an ambulance, drives me to the municipal airport, and then I am flown to Rochester, where they take me to the St. Mary's Hospital, which is the flagship facility within the Mayo system. And it's there that they diagnose me with necrotizing fasciitis, also
Okay.
known as flesh eating bacteria.
Oh my gosh, Chris, like just hearing those words, it's I'm like, oh my God, like, what do you do in that moment?
Well, at the time, I I accepted the reality, and I was ready to do whatever needed to be done.
Okay.
One part of me was thinking, it's a really good, really good fact that a really good thing that I am a fan of superheroes, because this is a great origin story.
Yeah.
I mean, radioactive spider bite, gamma radiation, flesh-eating bacteria.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
well,
right up there.
there you
It
go.
fills up
It's
the
like,
tongue.
yeah,
But
DC and Marvel, they're
I
gonna fight over who gets that one.
exactly. I look like the next Deadpool.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was very accepting that, well, I'm at the best hospital in the world, and I have a strong spiritual faith. So I'm just going to trust the doctors and put it in their hands and put it in God's hands, and whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
In fact, I became a little gung ho about getting into the surgery, the first surgery, so much so that I think I freaked out the surgeon a bit
Okay.
because they had already put me on painkillers. So I was starting to hallucinate a bit and I was getting very flippant. Not not
Okay.
not in a rude way, but in a very gung ho, let's do this
Yeah. I'm
attitude.
ready.
The doctor's used to people crying and asking are they gonna die. And I'm like, I will give me that scalpel, I will do it myself. Let's
Yeah.
go.
Oh my gosh.
So I was ready to go. And so they brought me into surgery for the first of numerous surgeries. And I was in a coma from that moment for 5 days.
Wow. Five
So
days. Oh my gosh. That is just unbelievable. So when you came out of the coma, did you remember anything or?
the first thing I recall after waking up from the coma was thinking, why am I being covered in green liquid? I thought I was at the bottom of a water slide.
Wow.
It turns out there are no water slides in the hospital.
That is,
I
I was wondering about that exact same thing,
Yeah,
right? Like I thought for
I didn't
sure.
sign up for, some kind of aqua class.
Yeah.
I was throwing up CT fluid.
Oh my
And
word. No
yeah,
way.
but the funny thing is CT fluid is clear. I have no
Okay.
idea where the green color came from, but I am spewing out this liquid. I am not as jovial and gregarious as I usually am. I am quite grumpy.
Oh my gosh. And CT fluid, is that from is that from the operation basically
It's
or
so they can it's so they can see, scans of my body
right.
and just keep an eye on things. So I'm basically throwing a fit. I scared one nurse who, to quote the movie Clerks, wasn't even supposed to be there that day.
Okay.
So, and then I see a person I wasn't expecting to see at all. My brother, Jeff, who
Okay.
lives in Michigan, not
Oh,
Minnesota. So that
not
freaked me
Minnesota.
out a bit.
Yeah.
Turns out, as soon as Becky got off the phone with me, she called Jeff.
Okay.
And as soon as she told Jeff what was going on, she then he then found the first flight out of Grand Rapids, Michigan
Right.
to the Twin Cities, and it took a shuttle down to Rochester and ended up spending a week and a half with us.
Okay. Wow.
Sometimes sleeping overnight in the hospital so he can get the latest updates on my condition.
Oh my gosh. Well, thank goodness
So,
he was able to do that, right? Like and
yes,
be
yes, because
there.
he's the one who called Becky to tell her that I was awake.
Okay.
So she and Dad came up from the house and we talked for about 20 minutes. It was not that long because they wanted me to rest.
Right.
So they leave and I am left there with my new body.
Okay, so
And
explain that when you say new body. So the arm, like what was do you remember? Could
oh
you
yes, I should tell you all the fascinating changes that happened in that 5 days.
okay.
So first of all, they had to address the arm, shoulder, chest, and back because that was the part that had the fleshy bacteria. So they debrided that area. They removed all the infected skin, tissue, and bacteria from the arm, shoulder, chest, and back.
Okay.
Once they did that, they found that my arm should be amputated. In
Oh my
fact, they were planning on it. The infection had gone so far into my arm that
oh my
that was the second
gosh.
surgery was they were going to amputate. But as you see,
Yeah.
spoiler alert, they
Spoiler.
didn't
Did not.
because the occupational therapist in attendance saw that I still had hand function.
Okay.
You know,
Thank goodness for that person.
yeah. Oh,
Love that
I gave her a
person.
fist high five.
Yeah.
So what they elected to do is they removed I'm going to have to do the conversion in my head because it's a 15-inch by 4-inch flap of skin. So it'd be like a 40 centimeter by 10 centimeter, something around
Wow.
there.
Okay. Okay.
Flap of
So,
skin and tissue from my left thigh and place it in my right hand and forearm
oh my
here.
gosh.
So since this is my thigh on my hand,
Right.
I call this my thand.
You're there.
Copyright pending.
Yeah. Well, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I would definitely
So
copyright that.
so yes, arm is saved.
That is,
But
is
now I have a giant hole in my leg.
my gosh.
And they won't let you have a giant hole in your leg, Marissa.
No,
No
then just
matter
like go
how
home
cool you
and go
think
on
it
your
looks.
life, right? Go on with your life.
Yeah, hey, there's flappy thigh over there.
Yeah.
No, they won't let it happen. So what they did was they removed my vastus lateralis, which is the outermost quadricep muscle in your
Okay.
thigh.
Okay. I was
And
wondering for a
then,
sec because my medical jargon is a little bit rusty. So yeah. Okay.
yeah,
So
so
on the thigh.
so it's the outermost quadricep muscle. They took it out.
Wow.
So my quad is now a tri.
Oh my gosh.
Then they took knobs on either side and installed knobs on either side of my wound. And then
Wow.
they installed a shoestring type contraption called a Jacob's ladder
Okay.
and put that on the inside. So they would tighten the knobs over time to close the wound.
Wow. So did you have to go back into the hospital consistently for them to tighten the knobs, or did you have to remain in the hospital? Like they wouldn't let you leave until that was sorted?
I was in the hospital for more than 2 months.
Okay. Oh
And
my
so,
gosh.
yeah, they like their knobs. They're
Yeah.
not gonna let me leave the hospital with knobs.
Got it. Got
So
it.
yeah, so that was a whole thing. So so that took a couple weeks for that to finally heal up. And then there's the matter that had all this infected skin and tissue that was still open and not covered because of the surgeries. So they took a skin graft harvester, or as I like to call it, a cheese slicer on steroids.
Oh
I
my
think it's
gosh. That
huge.
does not sound good.
And ran it up and down my back and my thighs.
Oh.
So they could take skin graft harvestings and place it on my arm, shoulder, chest, and back. But what they did first is I'm not sure if the lights are too bright, but it actually looks much better than they used to. But they have a base layer called Integra,
Okay.
which they put underneath here. It looks like scales. I look very scaly.
Wow.
And so they put it down, and then they put these skin grafts over top of the Integra.
Right. So
And
they
the
kind of
tricky
grew
part
your
was that,
skin back.
well, it's not. I can't grow my skin back. It's just new skin.
Okay. Okay. I see
Yeah,
what you're saying. Okay. I got
yeah.
you.
So all the skin grafts came from my back and my thighs.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay. I see.
yeah, and they were really worried about the elbow because it's a very tricky angle. But thankfully, they are again world renowned.
Yeah.
It all took in one go.
Wow.
So I didn't have to go back after my discharge to get touch ups on the skin grafts. The only time the skin grafts really bother me is when I bump the elbow and it bleeds because skin grafts have very very few nerve endings.
Okay.
So
So you don't
like when
feel
I go
it.
sledding with my kids and they're on top of me, we hit a bump and we land. I don't feel any pain, but
Right.
I'll come home. I'll take off our our snow gear and sweatshirts, and I'll touch my arm, and it'll feel wet because
Really?
I gashed it open. But I didn't know that because it didn't hurt. And it was hard enough for me to tan as a ginger before.
Yes.
It is outright impossible now.
Okay.
So I just slather on sunscreen whenever I go outside.
Yeah, it's probably not actually good for you to do too much tanning anyway. Like, you
Yeah,
wanna,
yeah.
it's
So
better to
I
keep your
yeah.
skin, covered and good.
Oh yeah. We buy stock in Coppertone.
Yeah.
The sunscreen, not the suntan lotion.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So
So,
going back,
yeah.
so thank you very much for asking about all the surgeries. So going back to the moment when Becky, Dad, and Jeff had left, all that infected or all that flesh-eating bacteria was out of my body, the physical bacteria. But
Okay.
now I had what's called personal bacteria,
Yep.
thoughts and ruminations and questions to which I had no answers. Questions like, what am I going to be able to do with my new body when I
Mm,
recover, if I fully recover?
yeah.
How am I going to relate to Becky, the kids, other family members and friends, my colleagues, my students?
Mm-hmm.
What's my mindset going to be like if I get another scratch or if I come upon a stressful situation? And I had all of these questions swirling around my head. And when you have no answers to questions, Marissa, it
Mm-hmm.
starts putting you into a very negative space.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the negative, like your mind automatically, you're weighing up both options, right? But for so many of those answers, it's so it's common for us to go to that space because it's the unknown, because you don't know. So it's hard
Yes.
to actually put yourself in that positive step and say, no, 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 it's gonna be great, it's gonna be fine.
Mhm. And previously, the only time I had ever spent a night in the hospital was when I stayed overnight when Becky gave birth to our first kid.
Yeah.
I thankfully had been a very healthy person until that point. No allergies, very, any scrapes or fractures were outpatient types of situations. I never had to spend a night in the hospital until then. I
Okay.
guess you could say I saved it
Wow.
all up for a
I guess
special
so.
occasion.
I guess special
Yeah.
occasions. And you got
Well,
like
you
extra
know what?
time, whole party
When
in there.
people, when most people turn 40, they go through, midlife
Yeah,
crisis. They
not
buy
cheap,
a new
Chris.
sports car. They have, they might, their eye may stray, whatever. Me, I get a
No,
flesh eating bacteria.
that's
I'm
it.
going big.
Exactly. That's it. You go
Yeah,
big or go home, right? I mean,
exactly.
you gotta have a story to tell, or it's like what?
Yeah. I went big and went to the hospital.
Yeah.
So I had all of that negativity starting to ruminate in my mind. Even when I was like interacting with people, I put a smile on, but I still had those nagging thoughts of, okay, what's going to happen when I am discharged? How am I
Right.
going to handle things then? But thankfully, I didn't have to ruminate on those questions for long because a day or so later, Becky had come to see me
Mm-hmm.
and she started telling me about all the wonderful things that our friends and family and colleagues and other people were doing for us. For example, our neighbors were snow blowing our driveway and shoveling our walkways.
Oh, that's
I
so
mean,
kind.
it was April, late March, early April when we were having this conversation. But in Minnesota, that's basically winter round two,
Yeah.
usually. Um, we had the local law enforcement was keeping tabs on the house
Wow.
because the term flesh eating bacteria spreads through the community as quickly as the bacteria spreads through your body.
I was
It's
just
very
thinking, yeah.
Everyone knew what was going on with us. So they knew the house was vacant. So the law enforcement was keeping an eye on it. But in Rochester, my colleagues from my school were stopping by our parents' house to play with the kids, to
Oh,
donate
it's
some
so nice.
clothing and food and toys because Becky had had gotten them ready in such a rush.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't pack for a 2 week stay, which it turned out to be for them.
Exactly.
My brother, when he flew in from Michigan, he picked up an iPad so I could have something to entertain myself with.
Oh, that's
Even
so
my
nice.
my school laptop was too big and too cumbersome to put on my legs because of
Yeah.
the surgery.
Yeah.
One of Becky's classmates from high school started a GoFundMe account, which actually raised enough money to offset the lost wages I had incurred from my
Wow.
hospitalization because I didn't have enough sick days.
That is incredible.
When
So it,
she told me
yeah.
all of those things that people are doing for us, I felt not only did I feel that personal bacteria wash away, but I felt a responsibility to not let this second chance go to waste.
Yeah.
All of these people sacrifice their time, their treasure, their talent to make sure that we were okay.
Yeah.
And so I was not going to let this second chance go by without making it worth their while. And
Yeah.
it's then that I created what I now call the attitude of gratitude. But it initially started with 3 questions.
Okay.
But these were questions I could answer.
Okay. Great. Okay.
My
Let me
first
hear these.
my first question was, what good things did I have in my life? Now, Marissa, when I ask you that question, what do you answer with? What are good things in your life?
So, so many, but definitely the roof over my head, my husband, my cats who always bring me joy, my brain cells, which I always give a lot of thanks for because they're like I love that I'm a thinker and I love that I love to learn. My my car that gets me from A to B, my legs for letting me run with my friend 3 times a week. I really could go on.
That's great. And those are the things I thought of as well. My faith, my family, my friends, my house, my job, my I was still getting around to my health, but
Yeah.
I'm glad I still had the parts that I did have.
Yeah.
But then I started thinking about what about the small, insignificant parts of our lives that we commonly overlook, but they are actually a main source of our daily happiness.
Yeah.
So, thinking back to that iPad that Jeff bought me, I thought about the Netflix show Daredevil.
Okay.
And I'm not sure if you've ever watched it,
I
but
haven't.
as a comic book fan, and especially of that character, I loved it. Not only because it was so masterfully created, but because it was an escape for me.
Okay.
Because at that time, I was still going into surgery after surgery, times when I couldn't have anything to eat.
Oh wow.
So I would be lucky if I could snag some ice chips to gnaw on during, before my next surgery, and I would
Right.
watch Daredevil all the time.
Wow.
I thought of how the window in my hospital room was situated in a way where the sun never shined directly into my face, even in midday. And
That is a good one.
I know that sounds really random, but
No, but
when
I
you
get
are
that. That is a really good one. Like just that little moment of like, I'm so thankful that I have the window I can see, but it's not shining right into my face. I love that. Yeah,
yeah,
I see
and
that.
not only that, but also when you are confined to one space and you are reliant on so many people for so many things,
Yeah.
not having to ask someone for one more thing is actually a blessing. You're asking them
Yes.
for so much already. And then there's the hospital pizza.
Okay.
Now, Marissa, what
I'm not
is
sure where
your
this is
relationship
going.
with hospital food?
My relationship with hospital food is that it's not great. That is my relationship. That's where I'm going to finish
Yeah, yeah, we think of
that.
hospital food on par with like middle school lunch, if
Yes,
that if
yes,
it's that
yes.
high.
Exactly.
But the hospital pizza at St. Mary's, the pepperoni pizza in particular, was phenomenal.
Oh, wow.
It was
Okay.
so good. And maybe it's because I hadn't had pizza in a month when I finally ate it.
Y-
But
That's, but
I
still,
still
that's
have that
like,
memory.
yep.
And that was something that I really appreciated. And I still do this today. In fact, I tell people to get gratuitous with their gratitude. And usually when we hear the word gratuitous, it's in a negative context.
Hmm. Yeah, it's
You
got
know,
negative
the
like
gratuitous
connotations to it.
language of
Yeah.
those, of the lyrics of that song, how in the 80s, like Motley Crue had gratuitous amounts of hairspray,
Yes.
whatever. But
Yep.
gratuitous it just means extra.
Yeah.
You're just
Yeah.
going
Like
extra with,
gratuity,
yeah, like a gratuity, like a tip.
like a
It's
tip.
extra.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so being gratuitous with your gratitude just means you're just being a little extra in what you're thankful for. So
Yeah.
I do this all the time. I look around like these scissors. I am thankful for these scissors, not not for how they're serving me right now, but for when I need to cut something into smaller pieces, they are right there and they work really well. I am thankful for this squeezy brain, which sometimes when I'm in a long meeting, I'll grab and I'll not only channel my energy to focus through my hand, but I'm also getting a little exercise.
Yeah. I've got,
I'm
I,
thankful for.
I was
Go
just
ahead.
gonna say, I've got one. I'm like, I'm thankful for the French vanilla incense that I burned yesterday because when I walked into this room this morning, it smelled amazing, and I was like, "Oh, this is such a great start to my morning, smelling like the remnants of this incense from last night." So just when you said that, I was like, I'm really thankful for that incense from this morning.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm thankful for door hinges and the
Yeah,
pins that go into the door hinge because you ever try to work with a door hinge that does not work? It is frustrating. And
that is
so
frustrating.
if we go through our lives and think about, wow, how many things do we have that really serve us? And,
Yeah.
and I call this not only being gratuitous with your gratitude, I also call this wearing gratitude goggles.
Okay, explain that.
Because have you ever watched the show, the movie Free Guy?
Yes.
Okay, you've seen Free Guy.
Yes.
So you know the part where Guy puts on the glasses and his whole world is blown into a whole
Yes.
other realm because he's seeing all these possibilities that he never saw before. With gratitude goggles, we see all the things that we can be thankful for. I'm
Right.
looking at my bookshelf. I have at least 200 books on this bookshelf. Most of them I have not read in a while, but I'm thankful for the knowledge they have given me. And if
Yeah.
I need to look up something, they are there to serve me.
Yeah.
I'm thankful for the screws that keep my lights operational. Either, the screw part of the bulb or the fact that the lights aren't falling apart.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think people
So,
underestimate those little things, right? I know I'm just thinking I'm
exactly.
thankful for my desk fan because it's been really hot in South Africa. So every time
Mhm.
I feel like I can't work anymore, I can put it on and cools me down. So it's sometimes I also don't think about those little things that you can be grateful for, but everything I think you can be grateful for in some way or another, right? For sure. I could think
Exactly.
of something,
Because
everything on this desk, I could think of a way to be grateful for it.
yes, and so I want to be clear about something, Marissa. I'm not saying these glasses are rose colored. We're
Yes.
not trying to erase or ignore the negative parts of our lives. All right. When I look at my body, I see some awesome cosplay options, which I have used my skin grafts for cosplay, but
Okay.
I still deal with tightness and the fact that skin grafts do not sweat. So they are cooking right now, especially
Okay.
after had having run for 20 miles. And so there's discomfort every day that I deal with.
I see.
Just because I'm grateful does not mean the bad things go away, but it helps you handle the bad things better.
Yes, and I think
And so,
also hopefully like I think it can help you understand that the bad things in your life are to prepare you for better things to come. Do you know what I mean?
mhm.
You need to experience certain things sometimes because it's those experiences that are going to help you with your actual purpose or help you teach others or help you, share your story with the world and maybe save someone else, which you don't realize at the time. But that is why we have to experience these moments, fortunately or unfortunately, but it is the way it is.
Yeah, and the time is with teaching. Yesterday, I was in a social skills class with my students, and a couple students got into an argument over a misunderstanding. And it
Okay.
was about being a good sport because in the United States this weekend we have the Super Bowl.
Right.
And I happen to have one person who is a 49ers fan and one person who is a Kansas City Chiefs fan.
Okay.
And we are talking about being a good sport. And someone there was a misunderstanding, and I'm dealing with these two students who are coming from their own experiences of being bullied, but they're missing they're not understanding each other. But at the same time, while I'm dealing with that, I'm thankful that 90% of the other students are being patient,
Yeah.
they're being understanding, or at the very least they're not chiming in and adding to the discord.
Yes.
And so
Yes.
even while you're dealing with those stressful situations that kids and they're invariably bring to us because they're still growing and changing, we can still be thankful for all the other things that are going right. And I think that's a great way to help center ourselves when we're in those times of chaos
Mm-hmm.
or stress. Because if we can keep calm, that's going to help the students keep calm.
100%. Do you use any do you use a breathing technique at all, or do you just are you pretty well trained now in your mind that you can kind of remain calm?
I do sometimes use square breathing.
Yes. So
When you breathe
explain
in four
that.
beats, breathe out
Yes.
four beats, and you imagine a square. You can, breathe up, right, breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. And the deeper you go in, the slow, the quicker your heart rate slows.
Yeah.
And there's also 4-7-8 breathing you can use. As in my running, I will I will do a three step breath in, like when you're every 3 steps you breathe in, every 2 steps you breathe out. But having that practice, that
Yeah.
breathing practice I do every day when I run, really does help me stay calmer
The
and
four
keep
four
my
seven
heart
eight
rate.
is sorry, the 4-7-8, is that like for 4 counts? You breathe in for 7 and out for 8? I'm not as familiar with that one.
It's if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a while since I've done it. You breathe in for 4, you hold for 7,
Oh, right, you
you breathe
hold.
out
Okay.
for 8.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I find that since I learned breath work with meditation, it helped so much keeping calm, like in classroom situations. And I like that addition of kind of just like taking a second instead of frustrating yourself and focusing on what is actually you have to deal with here, looking at what could I actually be grateful for as well in this moment? Well, that these kids are, just kind of waiting for me and they're not also adding to the situation. That is definitely something to be grateful
Yeah,
for sure.
it's when I think of the you ever hear of in a show where they do zoom and enhance?
Yes. Yeah, yeah.
No, hey, zoom in and enhance on that one part of the with that one part of the frame to get that vital clue to help us solve the mystery.
Yeah.
Well, when we are dealing with those situations with students, we're zooming and enhancing. Instead of zooming in and enhancing on that one situation, zoom out so you can see that yes, that situation does need to be handled, but it is very small compared to the rest of the picture.
Yeah.
And I think if we just have do a better job of remembering to see the entire picture, we can see, okay, yeah, I do need to handle this, but it could be a lot worse. And if I see it as a small situation to handle now, it won't get bigger and it will stay smaller if not just go away if I can handle it in a professional and calm manner.
Absolutely. I think staying calm is like one of the greatest superpowers, like a teacher especially can learn in those moments of chaos. And I think a lot of people they associate this whole concept of how gratitude can raise your vibration with a little bit, maybe too spiritual for them. But the fact is that we are made of energy, and being grateful, it's proven to instantly just raise your vibration to more of a positive, like I can handle this mindset, rather than the negative one. So I think adding that little bit extra on top of staying calm will help a lot of people. I mean, I would think it's fantastic. I would definitely use it.
Excellent. Thank
Yeah.
you.
I wanted to ask you as well, Chris, because this led to you writing your book and becoming a speaker as well. So how did you get the idea to write your book, which is around the TAG program, like the attitude of gratitude for TAG?
The speaking and the writing didn't come until a few years after my hospitalization
Okay.
because I first wanted to not only fully recover, but I also wanted to make sure that if I was going to tell people about my situation and give them advice or give them suggestions on what they should do, I should be walking the walk
Right.
before I tell anyone else what I should do. So I improved my body physically. I worked on, keeping myself calm, making sure that the trauma that I faced, because I did face trauma,
Mm-hmm.
just
Yeah.
because I am a speaker and I'm an author does not mean that I'm saying, well, I handled everything. Oh, I dealt with some stuff, but I wanted to make sure that before I go on stage, that I was not going to have a situation that I couldn't handle. And
Right.
so after a couple of years, I decided, well, I'm going to go and I'm going to help people out. I didn't choose speaking though at first. I
Okay.
went into a fitness realm. I went to online fitness training because I thought, well, if I, with my mangled body, as I call myself, an extra from The Walking Dead,
Okay.
if I could look like a half zombie and still do these exercises, I can help other people do it. But
Yeah.
to make a long story excruciatingly short, I realized it wasn't for me.
Okay.
Not that the programs were bad, but because it wasn't speaking true to myself.
Right.
I
Yeah.
didn't feel like I was giving my total truth in that realm. So I pivoted and I started speaking. And I've been a public speaker for obviously all my life. Any teacher is a public speaker,
Yes.
even though you may not see it that way. You are speaking to a group. And I've also had stage experience. So I
Okay.
knew that I could capture attention. So I started speaking. And I chose to become a professional speaker in January 2020.
Wow, that timing, that year
I
sounds
know.
familiar.
Great, right?
Yeah.
I even had one in-person event that I set up myself at my church. I had 25 people there. It wasn't about my current speaking topic. I spoke on something else, but I got a speech, I got slides, I had people, I had an audience, I
Yeah.
delivered the speech. They were mostly, you know, if no one stormed out, so that's
Yeah.
good.
Yes,
And
that's
I thought,
good.
hey, I'm gonna keep doing this. 3 weeks later, sorry, folks,
Yeah.
world's closed. The moose out front should have told you. So I have the pivot. So I start a podcast that that I tied into the YouTube channel I already had existing, Chris DT Gordon, if you want to check it out.
Yep, we'll put
And
that
I
in the
started
show notes.
interviewing people
Oh, okay.
because yeah, and I call the show Scar Bearers.
Ooh, I like that.
So because I wanted to tell others tales of trial and triumph. I don't do the podcast interviews anymore because they were distracting me from what I'm doing now. But
Right.
I absolutely loved every episode I did because it helped me grow as a person, as a professional speaker, and as a human because I learned so many fantastic stories. But back to my journey, eventually speaking engagements started opening up both virtually and online and
Yeah.
virtually and in person. So I started, offering to speak at summits. Eventually school started opening up. And a couple years ago, I started penning a story. And it was going to be a memoir. It was going to
Okay.
tell about my journey of the hospitalization, of the different lessons I've learned, had some gratitude tips in there, but I would start and I'd stop, I'd start and I'd stop. And finally last year I decided, you know what, if I'm going to get this thing done, I got to get it done.
Yeah. Only
So
you can do
I
it,
put,
right?
yes, I put pen to, because I was also waiting for people to give me their advice and their feedback. And people are busy
Yeah.
unless you're paying them for it. And I was being cheap. So, I mean, and they're people I loved and respected, but at the same time, I should also, realize that they're busy and not wait for them. So I decided, you know what, I'm just gonna, I pull a Thanos. Fine, I'll do it myself.
Yeah.
So I wrote it, and I was even able to add in information about my marathon attempt and the subsequent failure of my attempt to qualify for Boston. That's in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And then I created a 6-month gratitude journal
Nice.
because that was always part of the plan, though. I didn't want to just say, hey, here's my story, buy it. I wanted to say, here's my story, buy it. Oh, and by the way, here's 6 months of practice for you.
Yes. So
This
if you're
has
not sure
daily
where to
prompts.
start, here's a strategy you can use if you are interested in like implementing a gratitude practice, or even up leveling the gratitude practice that you already have going in your life, right? Then this would be
Exactly.
a perfect way to move forward with that. Definitely.
Yeah. So I have daily prompts as well as weekly prompts where you go into really, exploring different ways to show gratitude. Like there are pages where you can draw a collage or create a collage with pictures. You can create timelines of different areas. You could talk about things that have failed that you were actually grateful for.
Yeah.
And being a special education teacher, I could not go without adding some baseline assessments. So I have a
Explain
baseline
that base.
assessment,
Yeah.
a midterm assessment, and a final assessment.
Okay, so baseline
And
assessments for yourself, right? To like really
yes,
get to feel where you are at in this practice.
yes,
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
because you want to see that there's growth being made.
Of course.
Yeah. So, I'm very clear that this is not a grade. We're not saying, oh, I'm a C in gratitude.
Yes.
No, this is just looking at where you are at. where you're at does not mean that that is your value as a person. Where you're at is just where you're at on your journey. All
Exactly.
right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And never, never equate the play your the path, the location on your path with your value as a person.
100%.
Because
I think people really need to hear that. Just say that again. Never equate.
never equate your location on your path with your value as a person.
Yeah. That's very powerful and so
And
true because I feel like people are so often, oh, I'm not, lack of self-worth and all because there's maybe just a mistake that they might have made or something didn't go right, like all these times you're saying you have to pivot, you have to pivot. A lot of people see those moments as almost failures, right? Something didn't work, I failed. And that's actually not what it is. And just because there's this moment that didn't quite work out, it has nothing to do with your value as a person, right? You're here because you have a purpose.
yes, and I like to tell my students all the time, you win or you learn.
Yes.
Never, I mean, if, I know people like to say you win or you lose. Well, a loss is a loss if you fail to take the lesson away because you lost that opportunity to grow.
Yeah,
But if
exactly.
you if you take that situation as a way to learn to better yourself, then you're still winning. It may not be in the way you wanted at that moment, but it will pay off in the future. For example, when I didn't qualify for Boston, I didn't just say, well, that was 3 hours, 16 minutes poorly spent.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
I set a 29-minute personal record. I beat my previous marathon attempt by over almost a half hour. You know how
Wow.
many people would spend thousands of dollars to be able to do that? Plus, I was second in my age division, 17th overall, and I learned now what to do in this new next marathon attempt to be more successful.
Yeah. Absolutely. So it was
And
all meant to go the way that it did. That's the thing, right? It was, and even your mindset, having to reshift your mindset in the hospital got you to now being able to do this marathon and having this more powerful mindset so that when you run, I have no doubt that it will be your best time.
thank you, I appreciate that. Plus, most of the course is downhill, so there's that.
Yeah. Well, as a runner, I know that that is a definite plus in the book.
Yes, gravity take the wheel.
Exactly. So, I actually wanted to know, Chris, if I were a teacher and I wanted to get some advice from you about, starting my own business, what advice would you give me on where to start? Because I know you are teaching, you're fully teaching and having the business. So
Yes,
as a teacher, yeah, what advice would you give a new teacher? Or would you give a teacher who might ask?
I would first ask yourself, what are you passionate about?
Mm,
Because you could follow all the different trends that are out there. And trust me, there are a lot of trends out there that people say, oh, I made money doing this, I made money doing that. But if you're just following the money, you're not going to find yourself on that path very long.
yeah.
If you find something that you're passionate about that you will do the dirty work in lovingly, then you will find a way to be successful. And that doesn't mean you're going to become a millionaire doing it. Success holds so many different levels for so many different people.
Mm,
Like if
yes.
I said, all right, I just want to speak once in a while and I want to publish a book and just have something for people to be out there. if that were my example, my definition of success, I would be successful right now. Now, I want to do more than that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on my way to be successful, but I don't discount how far I've come. It is,
Yeah,
there are so many books that have not been written,
that is
and
true.
even more that have not been published. I've already done that. I've already succeeded in that regard. And so I'm gonna, but it's because I'm passionate about it. If I weren't passionate about writing, that book would never have seen the light of day. If I weren't passionate about getting in front of a bunch of strangers and potentially showing them my scarred body,
Mm-hmm.
or and telling them how I overcame this horrible situation, if that were too much for me, we wouldn't be talking right now.
Yep.
But I'm passionate about helping others with my story and my message. I am not passionate about doing other things like becoming a coach. Yeah, that may change, but because I'm not passionate about it, I don't pursue it,
Yeah.
because I know that when things aren't going my way and I'm not getting any traction, I'm not getting any clients, that it would be much easier for me to give up, because it's not in me to do that right now. I know some
Exactly.
people who are fantastic at it. And that's not me right now. I'm a speaker, I'm an author. So I'm going to do that.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I think, you were when you were saying that you originally had gone into the sort of the fitness space, and you knew that it wasn't your passion. You could feel it inside, right? That sixth sense. I did exactly the same thing. Like I spent time um trying to be a private I am still a private tutor, but I'm also building my mindset coaching business because I have 10 years experience of mindset coaching, and I want to specifically help teachers. I love coaching. I coach my friends all the time. I'm like a natural coach. I feel very passionate about it, but I've had to pivot several times to get to this point and really know that this is what I want to do. I want to speak. I want to speak motivationally like you in front of teachers and help teachers get overcome these, challenges that they might be going through. But it has taken time to really figure out like that the passion has to be there. You can't just be in
Yes.
it for the money. You have to be in it for the value that you're going to give someone else, right? And then the money will
It's
just
not
flow.
about you.
Yes, it's not about you.
That is a lesson that I had to learn. And so many speakers have to learn. They think about, oh, I have to make sure I look this way, or my website is just like this. And it's not about you. No one cares if they can't get value from you.
Yes,
So you might be the
100%.
best, yeah, you might be the best underwater basket weaver on the planet. But if no one wants to learn underwater basket weaving,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter.
Yeah, or if you can't explain why it's valuable for them to learn underwater basket weaving or, actually bring it forth as something that will benefit them, it doesn't matter, right? They don't
Exactly.
um what Chris, where is the best place before I get to our final thought questions, where is the best place to find you online?
Well, you could I try to keep it simple. You could go to chrisdtgordon.com.
Okay.
That's my website. And there are a lot of ways to connect with my socials. On YouTube, it's Chris
Okay.
DT Gordon.
Perfect.
Facebook, Chris DT Gordon. Instagram, Chris DT Gordon. LinkedIn, Christopher Gordon.
Okay, much
But
more like
I have Chris DT as a nickname there for my
nice.
LinkedIn. Threads, Chris DT Gordon. TikTok, Chris DT Gordon author.
Okay. We'll
But
make sure to
but
put
if you were to
those. Yeah, go
yeah,
ahead.
if you were to Google Chris DT Gordon, you'd find me.
All right. I mean, yeah, it sounds like definitely we'll find you. Something is going to come up with all of the socials there for sure. And
Yes.
Chris, I'm interested, which public figures do you like to follow for your own personal development? Or are there any specific influencers that you like in that space?
Yeah, thank you. That's a great question. There are two in particular I follow and I listen to a lot. One is Brendan Burchard.
Love Brendan Burchard. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, for those who aren't familiar, he is a high performance coach. He is
Yeah.
the creator of the Growth Day app, which I also use every day to help keep myself focused on various goals and mindsets. He's the author of High Performance Habits, The
Yeah.
Charge, the Motivation Manifesto, and other books. And then someone else I follow is Jen Gottlieb.
Oh, okay.
She
I don't
is
actually have to write
probably
her name
one of
down.
the most successful female public speakers in the world right now.
Cool.
And she and her husband, Chris Winfield, they have this company called Super Connector Media,
Okay.
where they
Tell me
help
more.
entrepreneurs find, like news media outlets or get on TV and connect with customers, clients, audiences so they can be successful. And what I love about Jen is that she is a trained actress. She's been on Broadway, she's been on TV, but every morning, Monday through Friday, she will get on Instagram and go live all while doing her makeup. So it's even before she's in her makeup looking her best, she's
Yeah.
doing her makeup, answering questions, and putting herself out there and being vulnerable.
Yes.
And I absolutely love that because we see all these visions of perfection. And this
Yes.
actually ties into something I try to tell people. You look at a model in an in a TV ad. You look at a
Hmm.
car in a billboard. You look at a hamburger in a magazine ad. How long did it take that model to look that good? And how
Yes.
long is she going to look that good for very long? Before she takes off the makeup and looks like a normal person. How long before that car gets a ding in its paint and its value plummets? And do you really want to eat that hamburger in that ad? I guarantee that there's some unnatural stuff put on there to
There's
make it shiny.
some unnatural coloring going on there for sure.
Exactly. So instead of trying to find or reach after perfection,
Yeah.
which is fleeting at best and maddeningly futile at worst, go for greatness. Be consistent in your efforts. Be diligent every time you step on that field or step in the classroom, and be perseverant during the bad times because there are going to be bad times no matter what you go after.
Yeah.
If you are consistent, diligent, and perseverant, you might reach perfection once in a while, but you will always be great. And by doing those Instagram lives, Jen is not only sharing wisdom from her years as a fitness coach, as a TV personality, as a Broadway star, as the an owner of a million dollar franchise,
Hmm.
but she's also sharing as a woman and being vulnerable and letting
Yeah.
other people
And being
know,
authentic, right? That
yes,
authenticity of this is who I am. And it's okay to share who you really are because that is what people want. They need that connection, especially in today's world where people are connecting through devices. They need to feel like it's a almost a personal connection. Um, and I know that's a thing on TikTok as well, the doing the makeup, because it does feel personal. It feels like I'm in there with you. I'm sitting there watching you do your makeup while you're talking to me,
yeah.
and
And
I love
something
it.
she also says that many people have said, but I just love it, is that never compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20.
Yeah, that is powerful and very
You
true.
know,
And a lot of people do that, right? Rather
yeah,
aspire, rather read chapter 20 and be like, okay, this is where I want to get to. Now I need the steps to get there, right? Now I'm
yeah,
gonna
but
start.
yeah, reverse engineer it
Yeah,
so you can figure out your steps to get there.
exactly. I love that. I'm absolutely gonna start check out Jen Gottlieb, start following her because she sounds incredible. And what I want to do, right? She's the speaker, that's where I want to head. So I'm definitely gonna check it out.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Chris, these days, how do you move yourself from if you find yourself in a negative space or a negative mindset, how do you move yourself to a positive mindset? What are your main strategies?
Well, I use the gratitude goggles.
Yeah.
I look around me and say, okay, I got that thank you, but we're going in another direction email from a prospective speaking client. A class session didn't go as well as I thought. I quickly look for, okay, I pan out, I zoom out and see the whole picture. Well, that person isn't going to let me on their stage. I'll look for another stage. Or, hey, that allows me to do X, Y, or Z on that day. Well, that didn't work out well with that student. Let me see if I can reach out to them when things have calmed down and learn something from them and or find a way to bridge that gap or mend that fence
Yeah.
by zooming out and seeing with your gratitude goggles what is really good in the situation, not just focusing on that one tiny little part of the picture that's bad. You're going to see that there are so many other things going right, even though that one thing went wrong.
Yeah, I think I really love that really resonates with me as well. It's not something I've personally done, but I like that idea of zooming out. I feel that you could definitely stop yourself for a sec, just zoom out and look at what's really going right into the big picture, right? Like it's like a painting, right? You don't have to just
Yes.
be this one little section of the painting. And I think that I'm not sure if you have kind of answered this, but I want to hear your ideas anyways. What is the one thing you do to keep yourself calm if things suddenly get chaotic? What's your go-to? Is it the breathing or is it something else?
Well, I definitely try to take a deep breath sometimes when I am busy doing all the things. I will take a deep breath and realize, ooh, that burned a little more than it should have. I'm not breathing as deep as I should. So I'll spend a minute or two taking some deep breaths. I'll
And
do
just really
some
take a deep breath.
short body work.
Okay.
Brendan Burchard talks a lot about every 50 minutes taking a designated break and maybe doing, like doing some hops, doing some yoga poses, uh, do some like slapping or tapping like this,
So just like
just to
slapping
wake up
your
the
arms
body.
basically to wake up the
Yeah,
body.
you just go up and down your body,
Okay.
just shake things out. And just think about maybe what is something you're looking forward to that day.
Yeah, that's good.
Like, all right, later on, we're having chili. I love chili.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to having some chili later.
Yeah.
Or my wife and I are watching a show right now. We're in the middle of, every night we watch an episode of a show together. All right, later on, we're going to watch episode 10 of this.
Yeah, like shifting your
By,
mind a bit. Yeah, that's
yeah,
good.
by shifting forward to something positive, again, it's a bit of that zooming out,
Yeah.
but it changes your focus and it helps you see, well, okay, this situation is bad now, but it's not going to last.
Yeah.
It's going to pass. Life will go on. And, it's like when I was talking to my students yesterday about the Super Bowl. 90% of the people are not going to remember who was in the Super Bowl 6 months from now.
Yeah.
Only the fans and really diehard you know, football
And
followers are going to care.
maybe all the Swifties. I think
Yeah,
that's the only
yeah.
reason I know who's playing.
Okay,
It's
all
because
right.
I like Taylor
That's
Swift.
great. That's awesome. And really quick for 3 seconds, I'm happy Taylor Swift is bringing attention to this because it's showing a lot of people need to grow in a lot of areas.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that. But going back to that forward thinking, by looking forward to what's going to happen in the future, it helps us really see the size of the issue we have now.
Okay. That's powerful. I love that. Yeah, that's absolutely I like the way that you're putting it, like to think of it that way in terms of, just taking that step back and really shifting your mind. And I would also add on, one of the things I feel, especially with teachers, that you have to be so careful of is getting sucked into a negative space on social media. So, following someone on Instagram and then they have a post that happens to have like a lot of teachers just talking badly about something. And it's easy to go through and start reading, but it just takes you right into that negative space because you're seeing all of these people that are having a really bad day. And that's not what you want. You actually need, if you're going to go on social media, you need to start trying to train your algorithm to bring you more positive posts and comments, and so that you can go through those comments and feel good, right?
Or not scroll at all.
Or not scroll at all. That's
Yes,
the other one.
sometimes you have to you have to tell yourself, I am not a scroller.
Yes.
I am not a scroller. And once you catch yourself doing that, you say, I am not a scroller. Oh, that's right. Click away.
Yeah.
Oh, listen.
Atomic Habits, right? Change, just like to
Exactly.
change that one piece, like this is not me, this is not what I do.
Yep.
And last thing, Chris, this will be super easy for you. What three things are you grateful for today?
Today, I'm grateful for my wife for allowing me, among other things, to go for a 20-mile run this morning. I am
Nice.
thankful for my Altra shoes, which have a zero drop in the heel and a wide toe box so I don't crush my pinky toes. And I'm thankful for my tag sweatshirt. This is a sweatshirt I made for my speaking engagements, not only because it shares my message on it, but it is so comfy.
It's
Oh my goodness. I'm gonna take a nap after
fantastic.
this and I'm gonna sleep in this. I'm gonna sleep in the sweatshirt.
Do it. I love the switch. I love that you're getting some merch now. So I'll have to yeah, definitely we'll put all your links in the show notes. So if people want their own comfy tag sweatshirt, they can just grab
Reach
one.
out to me. I don't have a store right now, but I can get one to you if you want one.
Yeah, we'll definitely,
So
yeah, no, we'll have to, we'll keep each in touch so that when your store does come to fruition, then I'll definitely be ordering a tag sweatshirt for sure.
sounds great.
Um, Chris, I just want to say I am so incredibly grateful for you coming on this podcast and YouTube and sharing your incredible story and the guidance that you are giving people on how to approach their life in a different way. Like, I just really appreciate, how you are really changing the lives of so many people out there. So I
Thank
wish you the most prosperous and successful 2024, and of course the utmost success with your marathon on the 4th of May. I'll be thinking about you. And
thank you.
yeah, just best of luck with that and in all your endeavors. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Marissa, and thank you for serving teachers in this way. We think that teachers need support inside the classroom, but they also need support outside the classroom because, the best teachers are always thinking about teaching. And we should also remember that teachers are human and we need to serve the entire teacher, not just the one that handles the curriculum. So thank you so much for having this platform.
Thank you.